Hello and welcome to our secret studio. I'm Justine from Cariad Glass, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make a mosaic at home. We've designed a little kit to make it really easy for you to make something at home, and today I am joined by my glamorous assistant Hattie, and together we are going to show you how to make a stained glass mosaic hanger really easily with a little kit that we've put together for you, and then just some bits and pieces that you'll have around the home. So first things first, that is Chris, has made what we call our sort of back plate. It's pre-glued. I don't know whether you'll be able to see that from the camera, but we've got a glue which we get from our friends at the Creative Glass Guild. It's called No Days, and even though it's glue, as you can see, it's dry, but it is going to melt when we use it in the oven. So this is something that we'd make in the studio in our kiln, and we'd use glass cutting tools. But what we've done is we've made it really easy for you. We've made lots and lots and lots. If you have a look down here, Mr. Cameraman, we've got lots of smaller pieces of coloured glass, which are all going to work really well for the purposes of this exercise. So, Hattie, what colours do you think you're going to choose for yours?
So I think I've decided on the sea green and green.
Okie dokie. So in that case, I think I will probably do a rainbow, because that's the theme that everybody's really enjoying at the moment, and I really like all the colours we've got. So when you take your kit out, make sure that the glue is uppermost. That's really important. The back is shiny, and that side just feels almost like greaseproof paper. It's a really strange feeling, but you'll be able to see which way's up and which way's down. So place your back plate on your kitchen table, put a piece of paper down, a piece of card to work on, and what we send you is a nice selection of colours. So we've got lots and lots in front of us that we've been preparing. We're ready to start actually doing it. So take a piece of glass, and obviously be careful, it is sharp, so just be aware when you're handling the glass, and place it anywhere you want. Now this glue isn't going to stick, so if I would actually prefer to put that there, then I can do that without any problem at all. So Hattie, if you want to start putting your bits and pieces together, and I will start putting mine down. The important thing to remember is just to leave a little tiny bit of a gap, not a big gap. And don't worry if your pieces are ever so slightly touching. Don't worry about that, because what will happen when the glue melts is everything will move a little bit. So what we're really making is something abstract, colourful, and lots of fun. And Hattie's already making a really good start. So what we're going to do is whiz on over to some time lapse so that you can see our panels come together. Hattie's already ahead of me. I better put one in place there. There we go. So as you can see, we're nearly finished. I've got just a few more pieces to put into mine, and it really is about having fun. Abstract always works better with mosaic, and of course if we were doing this in the studio we'd be using cutting tools, and obviously that's quite a specialist thing, so not everyone will have glass cutters and grazing pliers at home. So what we've tried to do is give you lots of different sizes of usable pieces to make a really nice colourful abstract piece. Now when you're putting the glass down, it's ideal if your glass is smooth against the glue side, because that gives the glue a really nice surface to stick to. So what we've tried to do is to make sure that most of the glass is smooth, but some of it is a little bit textured. So if you find a piece in your pot that has texture on one side, try and stick it smooth side down so that the texture is uppermost. But for the most part we'll make sure that we've sorted all of the heavily textured glass that we use in the studio out, so that it's not inside the pots. So I've nearly done, and so has Hattie. So I'm just going to finish off by putting in these little orange pieces. There we are. You'll see there's a few gaps here and there, and that's fine. That one doesn't fit. Usually I trim that, but that's okay. Let's have a little rummage and see what else we've got. There we are, that fits quite nicely. And then I just need a smaller piece to go in there. Let's have a look. I might just need to put just a little bit of red in there, which, what I'll do is I'll put a little bit of blue in, and that'll carry that theme on there. There we go. So let's just have a little check. Everything's nice and flat. If they are touching a little bit, it really doesn't matter. But you do want a little gap, not a big gap. That gap is too big, because wherever you've got a gap, that's where your grout is going to be. So rather than having a big splodge of black, as we use black grout, so it looks like lead lines, so it looks like a stained glass window, I'll just find a little piece of purple and I will pop that in there, either purple or blue. See what I can find. There we are. Ah, look, that's going to fit in there really nicely. Fab. Right, I'm really happy with that. It looks kind of chaotic. It looks a bit bonkers at the minute, and that's okay. Always, when you're working with mosaic, you have to take a little bit of a leap of faith and know that when you put your grout on, that's when it's going to bring everything to life. But the first thing we need to do is to stick the glass to that glass backplate using that glue, that No Days glue. So, Hattie, would you mind passing me a tray to your left? Thank you very much. Thank you. So, because we're doing this at home, we're going to be using an old cooking tray. If you haven't got an old cooking tray, put your work on the back side, and that's important because we are working with a lead border, and as you know, lead is poisonous. So after you've finished working on your piece, make sure you wash your hands. When we're working with lead, cutting the lead, we always wear gloves, but for the purposes of mosaic, you're not handling it too much. Later on we will be wearing gloves, but if you're using your cooking tray from home, put it on the bottom like that, just lift it up nice and carefully, and always make sure you wash your tray afterwards. The other thing you can do is put a piece of greaseproof paper underneath, but it's ideal if you can use something just sort of old that you know that you're not going to use for putting food on. So Hattie, is yours nearly done as well?
I think so.
Do you want to put yours on your tray? Fabulous. And then what we'll be doing is taking these up to the house and we will be putting them in the oven. Okay, so we've brought our work up to the house and we're going to use our oven as a warming device to melt the glue. Again, we'd use the kiln for this at work, but this is something that you can do at home. The only thing you need is a tea towel or oven gloves to take your work out of the oven because it is going to be warm, and then something like chopsticks or skewers or something that you can manoeuvre your glass around with, but I'll show you that when it comes to taking it out. So we start with the oven cold. Don't do this in a microwave, by the way. Open your door and then carefully put your work, there we go, onto the top shelf. Close your oven. And then I'm going to start it at about, set it rather at about 100 degrees. I'm afraid our numbers have come off our dial. And it is a little bit of a waiting game because the glue melts between 80 and 100 degrees. So we want the glue to be nice and molten. We're not going to be melting the glass, but we want the glue to be nice and liquid so that it bonds the glass, the coloured glass that we've cut and put onto the pieces ready. So I will come back to you when we're ready for that next bit of the process. Okay, so the panel has been in the oven for about 5 or 6 minutes, give or take. I've turned the oven off now and we're ready to take it out. Now I have had a quick check just to make sure that it has melted. I'm just taking it out with a tea towel. There we are. And it is hot. This is why we're using our skewers. You can see that that glue, which was sort of milky coloured, is now completely clear. And the reason for using the sticks is just to manoeuvre your coloured glass onto that glue. Just if they've sort of clumped together, which they sometimes do, you've got a few minutes, not long, but you've got a little window of opportunity to just manoeuvre your pieces around. There we are. So obviously when you've put them onto your glue layer, you've put them where you'd like them to be, but they will always wriggle about. Now that doesn't matter so much because it's an abstract piece, and that's the beauty of Mosaic. It's not the best medium for things that you want to look very realistic. So when I'm using Mosaic, it's usually to get a nice abstract effect. So I think that the glue is nearly setting, so I'm going to stop fiddling now. We're going to put Hattie's in. We're going to do exactly the same with hers, and then we're going to take them both back down to the secret studio and we're going to grout them. We're back down to the secret studio now. The panels have come out of the oven, and after you've used your skewer or your chopstick on them, it doesn't take very long at all to cool down. So these are nice and cool now. Hattie's has come out of the oven as well, and it looks really, really nice. So you can have a little look and see what you think. You can hold it up and have a look at yours, Hattie, and see what you think. There we go. So they look really nice, and if we turn them upside down, you can see that glue has stuck really, really well, but they don't really look like a stained glass window yet, so that's what we're going to do next. So this is all the stuff that you need from home. Some gloves. Now you don't have to wear gloves, but your hands are going to get dirty, so we always use gloves in the studio. They can be washing up gloves, they can be anything you like. So there we go, on with the gloves. You need some kitchen roll, a sponge, a little pot with some clean water in, and then a piece of card, or if you've got a credit card or a piece of plastic, something like that. So we've just cut that out of a dishwasher box. So there we are. So we've got a big pot here of ready mixed black grout. You can get grout powder, which you can mix yourself, but this makes life a little bit easier. So we're going to be working straight from this big pot, but in the kit which we will make for you, you'll get just the right amount. Okay, so there'll be a little splodgy amount in there. So here's what you do. Take your card and take out a small blob. You don't need loads and loads and loads. And I'm going to give this to Hattie. There we are. Thank you. There we are. And Hattie is going to start using the card to push that into all of those gaps. It's really nice smooth grout, this one is. Sometimes the ready mix can be quite grainy and quite sandy, but this one looks really nice and smooth. If you are using a ready mix, rather one that you mix yourself at home, just make sure it's this sort of putty type texture, nice and thick. We don't want it too runny. I'll start on mine now as well. Okay, so we're just pushing the grout into all of those gaps. And you can turn your work around. Just make sure that you're comfortable, really. Don't spend hours and hours and hours sort of worrying about it. Get it on, because this is just the first part of the process. So you can see all the big blob that I gave Hattie is gone now, so Hattie's ready for a little bit more. Okay, so I'll blob that up there for Hattie, and I'll just use the remnants of that. If your grout goes onto your lead border, don't worry about it, because that's all going to be cleaned off at the next part of the process. This is where, if you've got an old credit card or a bank card, it makes it nice and easy, because it's a little bit more rigid than using cardboard. You can use your finger if you want to, that's why we've got gloves on as well. So I've nearly finished mine. I am going quite quickly. You can take a little bit more care with this. And again, you will get it on the top of your glass. Don't worry about that. What we're trying to do is to fill the gaps in between the glass and at the same time scrape it off the tops of them as well. The more that you can scrape off the top at this stage, the better. Well, so we'll finish this off and we'll come back to you in a few minutes when we're ready for the next stage. So we have finished our grouting, and as you can see the panels are looking, well, they're not looking very colourful, so I think it's about time that we cleaned them. Now you have to be really careful at this point and really patient as well. So with a tub, put some clean water in there and take a sponge, any old clean sponge. You can do this at the same time, Hattie. Give it a good old wet, but then squeeze it. I mean, squeeze as much of that water out of it as you can. It needs to be just damp. And then start to wipe the top of your work. Now this grout is going off really quickly, so I am going to re-wet my sponge and have it just a little bit damper. There we are. We don't want lots of water on the surface of the glass, but you can see I'm being quite, I wouldn't say rough, but I'm being quite firm as I'm cleaning the top of that grout off. There we are. How are you getting on with yours, Hattie?
Alright.
Good. Okay. You're not going to get it all clean on this first clean. It's about a 2-3 stage process, but I've got the worst of it off the surface now. So I've re-cleaned my sponge and then I'm just using it really carefully just down the edge of the lead there. Table's wobbling as I'm doing this, but that's okay. Just taking that grout off the edge of the lead. And again, don't worry, you're not going to get it completely clean this time round. But we are just trying to get the worst of it off at this stage. So give that sponge another squeeze. One more gentle rub over the top. Hattie's nearly done with hers. There we are. That's about as clean as you're going to get it for this first time. And you can see that there might be a few little gaps there. That's okay. They'll all dry, they'll all settle down. What we then do is we put a piece of kitchen roll over the top. We press it down. There we are. And we just leave it. It's really important to just be patient at this point. Just let the grout dry. We don't want to wash away any of the grout and we don't want to interfere with the chemical reaction. So we just need to step away, go and have a cup of tea and give it round about 2 or 3 minutes, maybe 5, and then we'll come back and we'll have a look. So after a few minutes, you can peel back your kitchen roll. Ta-da! There we are. Keep hold of that because you'll be using that again in a second. And you can see the top of the glass. Let's have a look at yours, Hattie. Yeah, yours is the same. It should have gone sort of quite matte. So it's left a little residue of the grout on there still. And Hattie's going to need to clean her lead up again, which is not a problem. Mine's not too bad. So in with your sponge, again into clean water this time, and really, 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 really squeeze it out. You see that my sponge was quite dirty, so it's made the water go dirty. And again, really gently this time, we're just taking off that top layer of grout that you can see on the glass. There we are. So I think the key thing here is be gentle, but be firm. What I find is that I'll usually sort of use my finger and wrap my sponge around there, so that I can sort of use that to sort of really feel my way around cleaning that grout off. You can use a washing up sponge, you can use a piece of anything absorbent really, a piece of cloth. There we are. But the important thing really is to keep that sponge as dry as you possibly can. We don't want to be putting lots and lots of water, because that's going to stop the grout from going off. There we are. So clean your lead down as well, Hattie, once you've done your bits. There we are. And again, pop that kitchen roll back on the top, squeeze it down just to absorb any excess moisture on there, and then after a few more minutes it's going to be time to give our work a polish, and then it is finished. And we're on to the final bit. This is your final clean. So after you've done your second polish, take off your kitchen roll. Again, just keep hold of that, we'll use it again in a second. And then from your rag bag in home, or an old tea towel, just something nice and soft. Denim works really, really well, so if you've got any old jeans, then that works ever so well to finally polish your glass. And again, if you just put your finger into the cloth like that, and then what we're doing is carefully polishing. You can see the difference there. We're polishing any excess grout carefully off the surface of the glass. And this is where it's really important that you're patient, because if you try to do this while your grout is still soft, you'll end up just pulling it out, which is a shame. However, if your grout has gone a little bit too dry, and you can see on here I've got a few little bits that are dry, just use a skewer or a cocktail stick or anything like this. This is a sharpened chopstick, and you can just scrape away any excess little pieces. So I'm doing this quite quickly for the purposes of filming, but when you're doing this at home, take your time, take your time. You'll know if you're doing this bit too soon, if you're fetching out big pieces of grout, and you'll know if you've left it too long, if you're really struggling to clean it off. And if you're finding that that's happening, just do the process again, a really, really well squeezed out damp sponge with clean water. Just go over the surface again, let it dry for just a few minutes, and then go in and give it a polish. So Hattie and I will polish these up, and then when we're ready to show them to you, we will let you know. So we're getting back to cleaning. So we have finished cleaning. Before we have the grand reveal though, let's just turn over the panel and just make sure that we give the back a little polish as well. If you've got any stubborn little bits of grout, again remember that you can use just your sponge, little bit of water, and as Hattie's doing, you can use your chopstick or just a little piece of wood just to get those little pieces off. Right, I think we're ready for the grand reveal. Are you ready with yours, Hat?
I think so.
Okay, so in die tree. Ta-da! What do you think, Hattie?
Pretty good.
I'm really pleased with them both. I hope Hattie and I have shown you how easy it is to make a stained glass window all of your own at home using the Mosaic technique, using a few things that you've got lying around at home and of course a pre-made kit that we've done for you. So I'll show you what we've done. We've made for you a little pre-leaded glass backplate with that all-important glue layer on there. Put a couple of hooks on there as well so that you can hang your piece when you've finished it. You can use whatever you like for that, ribbon or string or whatever you'd like. We've filled a pot with about 200 grams of pre-cut pieces for you, so there's plenty in there to do a whole one of these pieces that Hattie and I have made. So you can choose to either have a rainbow mix, which we've got in front of us, which is a little bit of everything, which we've cut to size, so there'll be smaller pieces, longer pieces, squares, triangles, random shapes, or you can choose a few colours for whatever you'd like to make. So Hattie chose green and our sea green mix, and you can see how effective that is. We're also going to include a little pot of grout. There isn't any grout in this one yet, but there will be, and we'll make sure that there's plenty in there for you to make a whole panel of your own at home. So if you fancy doing it yourself at home, making a mosaic while we're in lockdown, or anytime, then just give us a shout. You can contact us on Facebook, you can find us on cariadglass.co.uk, Instagram, Twitter of course, and if you've got any questions, just feel free to shout.